Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. Welcome back to Diego Knows. I, of course, am Diego, and it's time for some Chick-Flick destruction. That's right, Chick-Flick destruction. That's what I'm calling it, at least, okay? So basically, for those of you who don't know me, I am Diego. I am world famous because I reviewed every single episode of Sex and the City and the movies and that new piece of shit show. I reviewed all those episodes, okay? All those episodes are on this channel if you want to see what I thought about them. All right, what I thought about Sex and the City, okay? But I decided I was going to review some chick flicks and just bust the narrative, okay? Because I kind of had fun doing it. Now, me personally, I enjoy action and adventure movies. You know, I'm more of like a kid from the 80s, you know, in the 90s. You know, I like Die Hard and Stallone and Schwarzenegger. You know, you give me some of that. I could talk about that all day. And the superhero movies, that's like my thing. Okay, but I enjoy all types of movies, and you know what? There's so many channels already that are talking about that stuff. I mean, do you really need another She-Hulk review? Okay, do we really need another one of those, another Marvel movie? You know, I mean, come on, it's like everyone's doing it to death. The new Game of Thrones, you know, the new Lord of the Rings. Everyone's fucking just shitting on all that stuff. And you know, like what can I add to that hasn't already been said? Not much. But I can delve into the topic of chick flicks, and I can give you a unique perspective. Okay, chick flicks are mostly made for women, hence the name. Okay, and gay guys. All right, and I am neither one of those things. Okay, so when I look at a chick flick, I try to find out, am I invested emotionally in the characters? Because that's what it all comes down to. Okay. You have to relate to the characters. You have to care about the characters in there, else there's no story. There's no romance, you know. So what I wanted to do for my first episode on Chick Flick Destruction, the movie that I chose to do this time is none other than Ground Zero. Okay, this is the one this is Patient Zero. Okay, this is the one that all the other chick flicks are based on, okay? It is the immortal classic Romeo and Juliet. Yes, okay, I decided that they've made three main Romeo and Juliet movies, one in 1936, one in 1968, which is the one they made me watch when I was in high school, okay? And then of course, the one from 1990, I think it was 96 it was. Okay, those are the three main Romeo and Juliet movies. And the one I'm going to talk about is the one from 1996 because that is the one that most people have seen. Let's face it, okay? Unless you're like in your 70s or something, that's the one you saw. Okay, the one with Leo DiCaprio and Claire Danes, all right? So that's the one we're going to talk about, okay? Romeo and Juliet. Now, for a lot of you that don't know, okay, Romeo and Juliet was actually not written by William Shakespeare. Okay, now William Shakespeare is in my personal opinion. I've done a lot of Shakespearean plays. I did a lot of acting. I did a lot of theater. Okay, and this guy is like a fucking he's a god when it comes to writing. He's the greatest writer of the English language. Okay, bar none. Okay. Yeah, there are people that are more technically better now today, okay, but everybody writes based on something that Shakespeare wrote. Shakespeare did it originally. He was like the first one that really fucking brought some drama and some characterization into the stories, okay. Now, the original Romeo and Juliet was actually written in the mid-1500s, okay, before Shakespeare was born. Okay, it was written by a guy named Arthur Cook, I believe, or it might have been Arthur Book or something, or Alfred Book, something like that. I forgot the name. Okay, but it was called The Tragedy of Romeus and Juliet. Okay, Shakespeare read that story and decided he was going to rewrite it in his own way, add his own little spin to it. He created some characters that weren't in the original story, like Mercutio. He beefed up side characters like Tybalt. He gave more of a role to like Juliet's dad, you know, and stuff like that. He added some characters in there and gave more roles to side characters. Made them more important in the story, okay? And that was the version that he did. So a lot of people don't realize that, yes, Romeo and Juliet is a rewrite, okay? It's a remake, okay? Shakespeare remade a classic story, okay? And gave it his own little twist that he became famous for. Now, he wrote this early in his career, and of course, he also produced it as a play, and it was a big hit, even at its time. His contemporary time, the Queen loved fucking Shakespeare, okay? He had his own little theater out there. All the men played the women roles, you know, we all know, okay? But what I really liked about this movie, this version of Romeo and Juliet, is that they kept Shakespeare's dialogue intact. They only made a few very, very minor changes. Like they made the prince, okay, the prince who was like basically the authority in that area in Italy, in Verona, Italy, okay. The prince, I forgot his name, but he was actually a prince. He was royalty. He was in charge, okay, of that area of Italy. They got rid of that character and they replaced him with the chief of police. They called him Captain Prince. Okay, whoopee-doo, okay. Little changes like that. Obviously, this version of Romeo and Juliet takes place in L.A., okay, as opposed to Italy, okay, and it's about two families of gangbangers, okay, as opposed to two feuding families. Once you get into that, once you accept the little changes that they made, then you can jump into the story. Okay, now yes, it is Shakespeare. Okay, now for those of you who have not read a lot of Shakespeare, okay, it is very difficult to read Shakespeare. Okay, there's this thing there that he wrote in a style called the iambic pentameter, which is very fucking difficult to understand. Okay. It's very difficult to read that shit. Iambic pentameter kicked my ass, okay? So rewatching this movie, thank God the actors are doing a very good job, particularly Leo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. They're doing very well with their characters, so we know what's going on while we're watching the movie. Okay, we get a sense of what the drama is without understanding what they're saying. Okay, because this is like, remember, this is like 15th century English. Okay, that they're using here. Okay, so yeah, it's very hard to understand the iambic pentameter that Shakespeare wrote all of his plays in. Okay, we remember some very famous quotes like parting is such sweet sorrow. That's Romeo and Juliet. You've heard that a million fucking times. Okay. And I really love the fact that this movie decided to keep Shakespeare's own words intact. Okay, they changed the setting and the context, but everything else, all the dialogue was kept intact from the original play. I thought that was a bold move because let's face it, nobody really understands that type of English anymore. but luckily, the acting made up for all that, so you understand clearly what's going on with these characters, who's afraid of who, and that kind of stuff. Okay, the movie does have some shortcomings. Okay, particularly the story is supposed to take place when Shakespeare rewrote it. He rewrote it in 1597. Okay, so obviously the story's supposed to take place back then, and it's obviously they didn't have firearms back then. Okay, so the movie calls their guns, their handcrafted 9mm. They call them swords. Okay, so like one type of sword is called a rapier, another type of sword is called a sword. So the guns are called swords because nobody fights with swords in 1996 anymore, okay? So that makes up for that, okay? Also, and here's something that a lot of people didn't notice, but I noticed it right away. This story never would have happened in 1996. Okay, because in 1996 we have something that they didn't have back then called a fucking telephone. Okay, so like no characters use a telephone at all in this movie. Okay, you don't even get to see one on screen. Okay, because if they had a telephone, none of this shit would have happened. Okay, if anybody had used a telephone, so the director just expects you to not pay attention to the fact that no one is using a telephone in this movie. Because if they had, they could have stopped. All this drama wouldn't have happened. Okay, so you gotta go along with that. All right. Now, for those of you who don't know, the director of this movie, his name was Baz Luhrmann. Now, that name sounds familiar recently is because he's the guy that just did that Elvis movie that came out last month, okay? The new Elvis movie. I guess what's his name? Austin Butler. Yeah, he plays the new Elvis. He's like the 65th guy to play Elvis in a movie, okay? He did that. He did that new Elvis movie, the one with Tom Hanks. Okay, that's Baz Luhrmann did that. Okay, and he did this movie as well. He wrote this movie, and I think he directed it as well. Okay, so there's a lot of artistic license that's going on here. That was all his idea. He's the one that decided to do all that. He kept the original vernacular, the original script from Romeo and Juliet, and put it into a modern day time. Well, modern for 1996. Okay, so I thought that was very interesting. It's very artistic, and the movie flows very well. When it comes to drama and pacing, you can't really beat Shakespeare. Shakespeare's the master of this stuff. He knew how to tell a really good story with some really cool characters, with some really good plot twists. Okay, and he knew how to do it wham bam really fast, get you hooked, get you to want to get to the next act, and then give you the resolution. Okay. Now, Romeo and Juliet, the reason I picked this story is because, like I said before, it is ground zero. Okay, all romance movies, the chick flick genre in general, comes from Romeo and Juliet. We've all seen that movie where the mom says, "You are not allowed to see that boy anymore." Okay, we've all fucking seen that TV show, that movie. That's all fucking Romeo and Juliet. Forbidden love. Okay, now a lot of people that don't read Shakespeare, have never seen the movies or anything like that. Whenever they hear about Romeo and Juliet, they hear about it in the lexicon of romance. Okay, Romeo and Juliet was the perfect couple. Romeo and Juliet, they had a love like Romeo and Juliet. You see a lot of that on TV shows and movies where characters reference Romeo and Juliet as this like paragon of love. Like these people were so in love. I feel like Romeo and Juliet. Okay, well, for those of us that have read Romeo and Juliet, we know that's all bullshit, okay? The appeal of Romeo and Juliet is not because of what the story's about, Okay, the story's about two teenagers that fall in love. Okay, it's not about that at all. I wouldn't even say they didn't even really fall in love. Okay, they fell in lust. Okay, the reason people love Romeo and Juliet so much, the reason it's endured for so long, and it's one of Shakespeare's best, is because it's about passion. Okay, it's about first love. It's about falling in love. Okay, for the first time in your life, falling in lust, if you will. Okay, now when we're all little kids, we see movies, we see grown-ups kissing each other, we see grown-ups telling each other I love you and that kind of stuff, but we don't really understand it because we're not old enough to really process those emotions yet, you know, or to have a relationship like that yet. But as we get older, once we hit puberty, really, once we start getting, you know, hard-ons and stuff, yes, I give you a straight man's point of view here. I do not censor myself here. Okay, can you handle it? All right. So there you go. Okay. So when you're young and you're a kid, you know, and you read about romance and you watch those fucking bullshit Twilight movies and you watch all this fucking bullshit that's out there on fucking TV, you know, you want to experience that for yourself when you're a kid. You know, and the first time you do experience that, maybe you have a crush on somebody, which is one thing, you know, like maybe you have a crush on Justin Bieber or some shit, you know. Me personally, when I was a little kid, I had a crush on Morgan Fairchild. I was in love with that bitch. You know, that kind of stuff. Yes, I'm old. All right. But, you know, the first time that you ever, like, meet someone and fall in love and it's reciprocated, that person feels the same way about you, that's a very special time in your life. You remember the way you felt. It's never as good as the first time. Okay, I remember me personally, the first time I'd been in love, you know, with fucking actresses and shit like that when I was a kid, you know, and in puberty and stuff, you know. But like the first time I was ever in a relationship with a girl, I was 15 years old. Okay, I was 15 years old. And, you know, everything I'd seen in movies, you know, grown-ups kissing and stuff and sex and all, okay, when I was 15, now it's happening to me in real life. Okay, and that passion that you feel, that spark, this is the first time you've ever experienced these feelings for another person before. And the fact that you know that person feels the same way about you, it's fucking intoxicating. It's overfilling, like you've never felt this feeling before, and it overwhelms you and it just drives you. You can't think about anything else except this person and being with this person. And you start playing these fucking love songs in your head, you know, and some fucking Bon Jovi and shit's going on, you know, in your fucking mind. It's fucking insane, you know. It's this huge fucking, you know, goddamn junior high fucking love. And there ain't nothing better in the whole fucking world than that. I remember the first time I kissed fucking Tiffany. This was like a long time. I was 15 years old. She was 15 too. Now I went around the cradle, okay? Oh my God. Dude, that was like, whoa, you know? Like my heart just exploded. You know? It's just so fucking passionate. And all you can do is think about this person. You can't stop thinking about them, and you're not paying attention to your classes. You're doodling pictures of her in your fucking notebook. You know, you can't wait to get to the fucking phone and call her. You know, oh, what'd you do today, sweetheart? You know, I can't wait to see you this weekend. My mom's gonna drive me over to your house. You know, that kind of shit. Yeah. Okay. We all been there. We all know what that's like. Maybe our first love or whatever, you know. We know what that's like. It's so fucking overwhelming, you know, because it's the first time we've ever experienced it. Okay, now it feels so fucking good. It feels so fucking good, you know. That's what Romeo and Juliet is. It's telling you a story about two kids that are experiencing this for the first time. Of course, it taps right into that basest desire that we have inside to be loved and to be loved for the first time. When we're kids, we don't understand a lot of things. We're learning them as we go along. And this is the first time we're experiencing these feelings for another person, you know? And that's what Romeo and Juliet is. That's what Shakespeare captured. He captured lightning in a bottle. He knew how to talk about young love, okay? Because it feels so fucking good. It really does. We know what that's like. Okay, when you're fucking making out and there's fucking New Kids on the Block playing on the radio. Yes, I'm old. Okay, we all know what that's like, all right? I'll be loving you forever. Yeah, you know what that's like. Come on, okay. And that's what Shakespeare hit on here in Romeo and Juliet. That was the beauty of Romeo and Juliet. Now, there is a downside to feeling this good, okay? It's not adult love, it's kid love. A lot of people forget that. These were kids. Okay, Romeo is 16, Juliet is 13. Okay, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Okay, they're just getting swept up with passion, okay? The whole story takes place in the course of 3 fucking days, okay? Romeo's very immature, okay? He's 16. He's already in love with another girl, actually, honestly. Then he goes to this party that he's not supposed to go to because he's a Montague and Juliet is a Capulet, you know, and their two families are at war. The two mafia families are at war with each other, and there was an altercation in the beginning of the movie with Tybalt and the other Capulets, you know, and with Benvolio, okay, and some of the other guys and the Montagues that were there, okay, Balthazar, I think another one was, okay, you know, Jamie Kennedy, you know, whatever. So they had a little altercation at a gas station where they just shooting each other. Nobody got shot though, but they kept shooting each other at a gas station. The gas station blew up. There was a big war going on, and of course, once the chief of police gets involved, he stops them from fighting, but nobody goes to jail. But a lot of people died just off screen. We don't see it, okay? But nobody goes to jail. Yeah, right. Okay. Obviously, there's a feud going on between the Capulets and the Montagues, okay? And that's how the movie presents it. Romeo is a fucking emo kid, 16. He's depressed and full of angst, that teen angst. He personifies teen angst all the way down to his fucking hair, just falling all wild over his eyes all the time. He's always like... Basically, every fucking chick teenage show on the CW is basically what he's doing here. Okay, but Leo DiCaprio is the master of it. Okay, obviously he brought this later on, a year later, to Titanic. Okay, this is the movie that got him Titanic. All right, so he's got that angst perfectly. I love her. You know, that we've fucking seen in Orlando Bloom. We've seen it in fucking every fucking goddamn new hot guy that comes out. You know, every fucking 2 years there's a new one out there. You know who I'm talking about. Okay, some fucking pretty boy that shows up in some goddamn fucking chick flick, professing his love to some girl and getting his ass kicked in order to win her heart. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Heath Ledger, who's dead. He was another one. Okay, like it's just like we've seen it so many fucking times. Okay. But he's doing it here, and he's doing it pretty well. Like I said, it's hard to understand what he's saying because of the iambic pentameter, but I can definitely know what's going on because of his performance, okay? And the way the other characters are acting, I understand completely what's going on. And that's one of the benefits of this movie, okay? And then, of course, we meet Juliet, who's Claire Danes. Now, in real life, Natalie Portman was hired to play Juliet. At the time, Natalie Portman was 18 years old, and Leo DiCaprio was 21. However, even though Leo DiCaprio was 21, he did look 18. Okay, and Natalie Portman was 18, but she looked 12. Okay, and they were like, no, this ain't gonna work. You know, we can't. Once they did the screen test, okay, they're like, okay, we can't do this. It looks like he's sexually molesting a young girl. We cannot have this in a fucking movie. Yeah, I know that's the real story that happened. You know, in the story, you know, it was a 16-year-old boy and a 13-year-old girl, but we can't really show that in 1996 in America. Okay, So they're like, no, it looks, because you gotta remember Leo DiCaprio is like 6'1", and Natalie Portman is like 5'4", maybe 5'3". Yeah, so it looked like he was robbing the cradle. So they had to recast her. They had to kick her out, and that's when they got Claire Danes. She was like a last-minute replacement. And actually, Leo DiCaprio and Claire Danes did not like each other at all. Claire Danes found that Leo was too immature. Like, he would pull pranks and shit, and he would say like things that a typical 21-year-old, you know, with fucking $50 million in his bank account, you know, and movie posters of him all over the world would act. Okay, and Claire Danes hadn't reached that level of teen idolry herself. Because let's face it, most teen idols are boys, they're not girls. Because most girls are attracted to boys, not girls. You know, so it's like, you know, she was kind of feeling the jealousy there. Like, you know, he had this big like female fan following, and she really had like maybe a few guys that were following her. That's it. Okay, but you know, she's Claire Danes. What the fuck? You know, she's never been a great actress. I never thought she was a great actress. Okay, I know in real life she's over here fucking married men, and they're leaving their wives for her and shit. That's what happened with Billy Campbell. No, not Billy Campbell, or Billy Crudup. That's what happened. She stole him away from, even though he's like a good 15 years older than her, she stole him away from his wife, even though his wife was fucking like 7 months pregnant with his kid when she did it. So yeah, so I have very little respect. But then again, you look at Leo DiCaprio. I mean, that guy, once a girl, he's like the Menudo, like the female version of Menudo. Once the girl hits 25, he kicks her out and gets a new girlfriend, you know. Hey, and good for him, man. That's the way it's done. Men, you need to learn from Leo DiCaprio. He knows exactly how to play the fucking game that women play against them. Perfect example. But anyway, so I have a lot of respect for Leo DiCaprio. I really do. Right, and he's a great actor too. He really is. Okay, but he pulled this off. He did a very good convincing. You know, he did the angst was very well. Everyone was well acted. Everyone there from Brian Dennehy playing Romeo's dad. He had very few lines. He didn't do much in there. But I've met him in real life. He was always one of my favorite actors. I remember him when he played John Wayne Gacy, and when he was in the Rambo movie, the original one, First Blood. He played the asshole sheriff. You know, according to FX and all the other stuff that he did. I always loved Brian Dennehy. I thought it was great. And of course, believe it or not, I think that Paul Sorvino stole the show a lot in a lot of the scenes that he was in, especially when he was dressed up like a female Roman at the party at his house. Okay, Paul Sorvino, for those of you who don't know, he played Capulet. He played Juliet's dad. He's the actual father of Mia Sorvino, the other actress that won an Academy Award herself. Okay, Paul Sorvino, he's that face. You've seen him in a lot of things. He was in Oh God with George Burns. He was the Baptist minister in that one. He was in Goodfellas. He was the mafia guy that was locked up in jail. You know, that kind of thing. Okay, he's been in a lot of stuff. He did pass away a few years ago, but I remember him from The Rocketeer and shit. So he's been around. He did a great job as Juliet's dad. Okay, Peace Postlewaite did a great job as the monk, as the priest. I forgot his name, Fry or something. Okay, and you know what? Honestly, I think that two of the standouts in this movie was John Leguizamo as a Puerto Rican Tybalt. You know, because they're supposed to be Italian, but John Leguizamo does not look Italian. He looks fucking Puerto Rican. Okay, Chichi Rodriguez, remember from Tu Wong Fu? Yeah. Now I do not like him personally. I think he's a horrible human being. John Leguizamo, I think his politics suck. I think he's a fucking racist. He hates white people. Okay, I really do. Okay, but he is a talented actor and he can be funny. Okay, you remember that movie, The Pest, that he did? Okay, well, I remember him from Spawn. He played the Violator because I'm a comic book nerd. Okay, he's done a lot of shit. He was in Executive Decision where Steven Seagal played his commander before he died. And, so we all know John Leguizamo is. He does that stand-up comedy. He did a stand-up comedy special on Netflix, which was total fucking bullshit. It was one of the most racist things I've ever fucking seen in my life. He actually put down white people, forgetting the fact that all Latinos, including himself, are half white and half Indian, Native American. He forgot that part. He just kept identifying with all the Native Americans that the white people gave smallpox to, and forgetting the fact that fucking the Spanish, okay, you know, Leguizamo, Spanish, Catholicism, all that shit is actually came from the white people in Europe, okay, Spain. Okay, it didn't come from fucking Native Americans. They didn't know who the fuck Jesus was. Okay, so yeah, he trashed his own heritage without being too fucking stupid to realize that all Latinos are half white and half Native American. Okay, yeah, did you know that? Okay, well, John Leguizamo didn't. So all right there, you're smarter than him. Okay. So yeah, I don't like his politics or anything, but he did a really good job playing the evil Tybalt. He had a pathos to him, you know, just like this psychopath Tybalt. I thought he did really good. And of course, Mercutio's character, I forgot his name. I think it's Henry Pernard is his name. He's this black guy from, you remember him from Lost? He played Michael in Lost. He was the father of Walt, the black kid on Lost. You know, he was also in the Matrix movie, the new Matrix movie, not the new one, but like Matrix Revolutions and Matrix Reloaded. He was in that. He played the character that went into the Matrix. You know, he was like the Reddit guy for the Matrix. Remember? Yeah, he was that guy. Link, I think his name was. Yeah. So he was. So he's been around. He's done a lot of things. He was on the Constantine TV show, played one of the angels and stuff. So he's been around. You've seen his face, the black guy. He played Mercutio, which, of course, I don't know why they had him dress up as a woman. I mean, I know in real life Shakespeare had all the male actors play all the female parts, but they didn't really have to do that in the play, but they did. He comes out in drag. That's the first time we see him. Mercutio's in drag. He's got the red lipstick and the silver perm wig on and the silver dress. He looked dumb when they go to the party. Okay, but I did like the way that he played. I mean, these characters are all over the top. I mean, John Leguizamo was sneering at the camera. You know, Mercutio's just like drama queen, you know, just playing up the gay aspect of his character. I didn't think he was gay, you know. So yeah, so the acting was very well. Claire Danes actually was very subdued. Her acting wasn't really overly dramatic, like Leo DiCaprio. Well, Leo DiCaprio was like, the stars. I mean, he really sold it. Or Claire Danes was more like, Romeo, You know, like that. It was just very subdued. They could have gotten a better Juliet. Well, they did, but they couldn't use her. Obviously, Natalie Portman. Okay, so that was going on there. I love the story of Romeo and Juliet. Okay, but the allegory of Romeo and Juliet is it's about immature love. Okay, the downside of this young, hot passion that we've all felt when we were young is that it's very immature. Okay, and they are extremely immature. This is not a relationship goals movie. Okay, you don't want to end up like Romeo and Juliet. Okay, they killed themselves over a fucking Three's Company misunderstanding. Okay, they would rather die, okay, than move on with their life. Okay, and it's a sad allegory. It's a sad story. Okay, these kids were immature. They were rich. They were spoiled. Okay, their parents were too busy with their own feud to pay attention to them, and so they got away with murder. Okay, literally, they got away with murder. Okay, and you know, and when it comes to their passion, it was great and it was powerful. But you know, when you throw a wood log into the fireplace, it burns slowly. Over a long period of time. When you throw a newspaper in the fireplace, it burns bright and hot, but then it goes out really quick. And that's what young love is. And that's what the story that Shakespeare was trying to tell people. This is not a relationship goals movie, okay? It's a tragedy. It's not a romance. It's a tragedy. Okay, these kids were young. Okay, they were in love. They were completely driven by their passions rather than their adult minds because they weren't adults. Okay, they were reckless fucking kids. You know, that were experiencing passion for the first time in their life, and they just went with it. You know, they would rather die and destroy their families than be separated. Okay, that's why they got married like a day later. Okay, and Juliet was actually the one that wanted to get married, not Romeo. Juliet was the one that was pushing Romeo to make all these decisions. You know, yeah, it was immature love at its best. It really is. Okay, we've all been there. Okay, honestly, look at yourself right now. Okay, imagine the first person you were in love with. Okay, can you imagine yourself with that person today? Okay, as an adult now. Okay, yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Okay, so you know, because we've changed, we've grown, we've gotten smarter. You know, we've had kids now. We've done all these things that we didn't know about when we were kids. Okay, but that's why it was a time in our life that's come and it's gone. Okay, this was their time, and they have no other time. They're trapped. They will always be 16 and 13 years old forever. That's their story. That their story, their passion, and then their death happens right away. You know, they break all the rules. The only good thing about this story is that the feuding families they come together and they bury the hatchet at the end. You know, that's the only good thing about the Romeo and Juliet story. But it's not a happy ending. These kids were young. They were reckless. They were stupid. They're driven by their passions, and they made a lot of mistakes. And a lot of people died. Tybalt died, Mercutio died, you know, and a lot of innocent people because of this feud, okay? This stupid, immature feud. Even the parents were immature, you know? The feuding families were immature, you know? I mean, it's insane, you know? But that's what it was. There's a lot of drama in there, but realistically, it's not a good story as far as finding love. Love is about sacrifice, but it's also about making the right choices. You know, it's about making commitments to each other. Okay, they got all that right. They just didn't know how to go about it. Okay, you got to remember, Romeo knew very well not to go to that party. He was not welcome at that party, and that if they see him there, they recognize him there, he's gonna fucking get killed. And Tybalt recognized there. It was only Father Capulet that stopped Tybalt from fucking killing Romeo right then and there when he went to that party. He wasn't allowed to go to, but he went anyway because he's an immature asshole. Okay, you know, Juliet was stuck in an arranged marriage with a guy with fucking Ant-Man Paul Rudd, who she did not want to marry him, but her parents wanted her to marry him. Her dad wanted her to marry him because he comes from a good family. He's got money, you know, and she didn't want to do it. So this was her revolt, her rebellion against her parents. You know. Now remember, I'll always remember that part where Juliet, when her dad finds out, he scolds, he beats the shit out of her. They didn't really show that in the movie, but that's what happened in the story. And then the mom, Juliet's mom, was so disappointed with her daughter for hooking up with Romeo. She's like, you know, do whatever you want. Do what you wilt. I'm done with you. She basically disowned her own daughter. I mean, that's cold. That's fucking cold. She's only 13. How can you disown your daughter? She's only 13 years old. Of course she's making stupid mistakes, you know? Because you're not fucking parenting them. That's why they're doing this. Because they're rich. They got a lot of money and a lot of fucking time. Okay, what else are they going to do? You got fucking Romeo's over here dropping acid before he goes to a party. Okay, they're doing drugs, they're drinking, they're smoking, they're playing with fucking guns. Okay, they're driving around with no seatbelts, raising hell. Both families are doing this shit. Of course, bad things are gonna fucking happen. They have no discipline in their lives. You know, it's like, damn, this is not a kind of story you want to live up to. It's not the kind of life that you want to have. Okay, it's entertaining, but you don't want this to happen to you. No, not at all. They're dumb, they're immature, and it was over a misunderstanding. They ended up killing themselves over a misunderstanding. Juliet faked her death to get Romeo. Romeo thought she was really dead because, like I said, nobody's got a telephone. Okay, so he takes the fucking poison right at the same time that he sees her waking up. But now it's too late. He dies. So what does she do? She blows her brains out. It's sad. It's sad, okay, but it's not relationship goals, okay. But I understand the allure. I understand the attraction, okay, and that's why I'm not gonna destroy Romeo and Juliet, okay. You can't really fuck with Shakespeare. Shakespeare was so fucking good. I can't really criticize him. He's a fucking genius. Okay, this story was a genius story. There weren't very many stories like that. I mean, I know the Greeks had their mythology and stuff, and there was a lot of folklore going on, but this was his retelling of an old story. This was his retelling of a story about love, and he made it more dramatic. He made it more exciting. He had a lot more drama to it, and I thought Shakespeare really fucking did a great job. It's one of his most famous works, and this and Hamlet, I think, are his most famous. Although my personal favorite is Macbeth, okay? But yeah, as far as Chick-Flick goes, yeah, this is ground zero. This is the one. This is the one, okay? When it comes to love, this is the one, Romeo and Juliet. And I think they did a great job. Okay, soundtrack was great. The acting was great. I love the contemporary setting. It made it more easier on the eyes to watch, And even despite the fact that it's hard to understand the iambic pentameter of the dialogue, the acting gave away. You knew exactly what was going on. Who was in trouble, who was afraid, who was angry, why, you already knew it just based on the acting alone. So if you can't handle the fucking 15th century dialogue, just fucking put it on mute and watch it. You'll still understand what's going on. Okay? So anyway, I give this one a pass. So thank you for watching, and I will see you soon on the next one. Bye.